Just hang on, Sid's just walking.
Okay. You guys. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did everybody have the opportunity to sign in out before you came in the chambers? Okay, looking over the agenda, we need a motion to convene into the County Board of Equalization. So moved by Jeff, second.
Second.
Second by Mike, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. And motion to approve the agenda, is there any additions or corrections on the equalization?
This is just the equalization.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I move to approve.
Okay, we move by Jeff, second.
I'll second.
Second by Sid, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Are there any conflict of interest today on this equalization? Okay. Are we just signing these, or are we reading them or signing them? Signing them.
Yeah, read it inside. Fill in your name in the first blank. And then your signature and I'll fill out the rest.
Today is April 8th, today. Okay, everybody have, is there a motion? 10:05, any public comments on the equalization? No public comments? Alright, we will move on. On the bull type, there's appeals, there is none. Tab number 1.
Okay, so we have one stipulation, so the first one is with Two-Way Enterprises, so this is the Kessler Farm south of town. She came in, so Kim is the lady that signed the paperwork, she came in and said that there was a house fire on that farm in January, and so we weren't aware of it, so all we're doing is just removing the house value, cause it's not safe.
I was by there yesterday. There was definitely a house fire.
Yes, and so that was that one.
That would be the total reduction of 17,000.
Yep, just
Okay.
for the house.
Okay.
Who is Kim?
Kim,
Ken and
Oh.
her brother.
Okay.
questions for Brooke the Hunter on this tab number 1 situation?
I move to approve the stipulation.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for stipulation of $17,718. We have a second. Second by Sid. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried on tab number 1. Tab number 2.
Okay, so these are recommendations, so these would be what we're gonna do on behalf of the property owner, so like the first one, Brian Gill, parcel 5802. There's more than one Brian Gill in the county, so the assessment for this parcel of land went to the Brian Gill lives here in Leola. It needs to go to the Brian Gill that lives by Java, so all we are doing is just putting the parcel in the correct property owner's name.
So you just need a motion.
We
We
could
could probably motion all.
We can motion all of them if you want. If there's anything that we wouldn't approve, then we'll do separately, so, okay?
Okay,
So just a name change on the Brian Gill,
Yep.
location, okay?
the next one is Wayne Kellhut. Just adding owner occupied status to his garage. So his attached garage on his house, he converted that into living space, so now we're putting owner occupied on the detached garage. And the garage value was at $2,740, so we're moving that from non-owner occupied to occupied, owner occupied.
Okay. You okay with that one? Okay, number Dennis and Margie Walker.
This is, so they have two lots, the lot that they have their house, and then there's another lot to the south where there's a garage, and we're just adding owner occupied to the lot. It's the land and joins and stuff, so. It's just missed when we did our assessment, so it's just a cleanup, make sure that. So no change in value, it's a classification change, just
Okay.
putting an X
And owner
on
occupied.
the code, yep.
Okay, number 4, PJ and Tracy Nelson.
Same thing, we're just adding an S onto the adjoining lot.
And they have purchased that from the beautification,
Correct.
old Leroy split lot.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on these 4 line items? If not, I entertain a motion to approve tab number 2.
I will make a motion to.
We have a motion from Sid, second. Second by Jeff, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. All right, tab number 3. Merry-go-round.
Okay, so these next two are okay, so they applied for tax exempt status. You guys, as the board, just has to determine the percentage of tax exemption. So I also included in your guys' tabs, their applications, so first one is Mayor Ground. They wanted 100% on the lot and the structure. Last year, you guys granted them 60%.
Okay. Go ahead. And just to bring Neil up to speed on this, you guys went and you did inspection
Yep.
on the building, in the guts of it, in the building, and it was 60% occupied inside last year, is that what we were at? Or what did we do last year for occupied?
Last year, we just did 60%
Yeah.
was
So what's changed this year that, we're requesting like more stuff?
Yeah, they got a lot of more stuff.
They are actually
More
using all the
donations.
rooms and-
Yeah, and when I talked to Paige, she wanted to be here, but she's not here, I texted her, and I don't know if you guys wanna call her, or you just wanna go ahead and. do
Well,
the
if
percentage.
you guys have checked it out.
Yep.
And what's yours?
Yeah, so the garage is plumb full with furniture. First floor is pretty, and there's a lot of stuff. The second floor is where they actually have their store, part of it. The other half is where they store their stuff. The third floor has structural damage, so it needs a new roof. But they do store the remaining hospital stuff. And so that is theirs, so they claim that they are slowly selling it on eBay and stuff. So-
What are we talking here as far as tax?
I think last year's fully was 5,200, and then we did 40%. There's no furnaces in this building, so they have to have heaters, and due to, I'm just gonna put my 2 cents in, due to, medical issues, I don't think they have been, or have been open. Judy, can you, or will
They're
be
not open, probably the end of April.
in April?
So last year, their total taxes was $1,918.50 for the whole year.
1,900.
Yeah. Or, yeah, for 2025 taxes. So currently, before we do the exemption, the land is valued at $8,750. The building, the detached garage plus the buildings is $203,276. For a grand total of $212,26.
This was the old hospital that they gave to this entity for $1.
That's why there's hospital stuff upstairs.
Correct.
Yes.
And then there was a rain spout, there was some water damage when you had been in there and. When it is open, it's a positive thing for the community, a lot of people can shop, kind of let it rip through it.
It's strictly non-op.
Yeah.
Insane.
Personally, I would do more just because there's more stuff, but that's up to you guys. How picky do you want to get on how much stuff do they want? And are they supposed to use the third floor, are they not? I could go either, I'll live with whatever decision you guys say. It's up to you.
So if we did a 100%, what did you say was 1,900?
1918, 40%.
So if we gave them the 100%,
Before, oh, gave them 100% off me.
yeah,
We lose that.
1918 taxes.
75-25.
How about we split it? 85.
I'm fine with that.
What's that right now?
60-40.
Yep, 64.
They're paying taxes for it,
Yes.
so it would be 40%.
Yeah, we're going
The
down.
$1,900 reflects the 40%, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because I thought it was about 52 or 55 originally, when they hadn't done their paperwork.
Marcia, do we know what this Leola's, are they tax exempt at all?
I believe they are.
They're owned by the city.
They're owned by the city, so they get 100%.
And everything goes back to they gave them, or was it to the community?
Well, there was, you know, if I recall, they were planning on maybe doing some other stuff with that building. I don't know where that's at, and I don't even really recall what they were gonna do.
Yeah.
Kind of like a community center type thing, stuff like that.
There's no money coming in and then fixing the roof is just kinda like throwing money into it. I'm okay with giving 100%, but, you know, it's.
I would be too.
You know, whether it be Leola, Long Lake, Eureka, wherever we can help out with something like this, I think we should.
I've never been in it, so I don't know. Do you think they're utilizing 100% of the space that's used?
Yes.
Okay, then I say 100%.
Yes.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. I'm sorry. I did that one, but that's okay. How about the Eureka Community Development Corporation?
Okay, there's here. Okay, so their application, the reason I have them fill out an application is because they bought the Gary Crime building right next to the post office. And so on the second page of their application, on the second box per se, they don't use it all for ECDC, they rent it out. And so, yep, go ahead, you can talk.
We bought the building from Gary Crime and we moved in.
State your name, I'm sorry, Judy.
Judy Don't. I'm president of ACDC and the Chamber of Eureka. We bought the, building because of, Northwest GF Mutual moving into the building space that we were in. And, we are in the process of remodeling it. We're set back a little bit because of what happened with James. But we made the one side is our office and a meeting room that we don't charge. Anybody can come in and use the meeting room at it with no cost. We brought the bathrooms upstairs for the handicapped people so that they have a place, they don't have to go downstairs. The other side of the west side of the building is our office space in that meeting room. The east side of the building, we are remodeling, and we took a wall out, made the waiting room a little bit bigger, and added another office room, so we have 4 office spaces in there if we want. And it's a satellite situation, and we're not at this point renting it out full time. We have one lady that comes in every Monday and rents it out, and we charge her $15. And the rest of the time is we have the state's attorney in, and we went according to how we came up with rent space. But it's not like we have permanent renters in there. It's something for the community that brings a hearing aid doctor in, insurance companies that can come in once a month and talk with their people that buy insurance for them. Anybody that has just a one-day
But you
office space.
you do charge rent for that?
We do charge, right now, it's $25 for the day.
Does the lady still come over from Knoll Bridge? Is that where she's from? Or does?
No, she comes from Ellendale.
Okay.
She comes from Ellendale. But other than that, for a permanent renter, we don't have, we just are using it for the community, because a lot of the elder people can't drive to go out of town, so these different, we wish we could make enough room in there for a dentist to come in, for people to once a month or so, but we don't have that. We're not that lucky to be able to, fit them in there, so
Or Judy, is there any talks of having somebody in there, like 2 days a week?
we're talking with some people about it. I don't know if it's gonna go through or not. But we do have, someone that's gonna come in, like I said, that one lady comes in 1 day a week. There's a possibility of maybe someone coming in, 2 days a week. It's not a set deal, it's, right now, I'm just giving you what the status is for right now. What would happen in the future, we would come back and tell you. If
So-
something would happen.
So Brooke, if half of it was, someone comes in, like, say, rents it every day, that would change what your definition of occupied, half occupied or 100% occupied? Is that where you're going with this? Or no?
For next
Yeah.
For next year.
Yeah, for next year.
But at the present time, they only have the occupant maybe 1 day a week, or not even that. There's no permanent rent on that side. Well, they're still doing construction on it.
Right, they're still doing construction on it, but the, lady from Ellendale only comes in when she has clients. Whatever you guys decide, like I said, we would keep everybody in tune to what's going on. If we would have a permanent someone occupy it permanently, we would sure let you know. I talked it over a little bit, and whatever you guys decide, if the west side, would be exempt, and the east side, whatever. Right now, we're just doing it for a community service. It's not to make money. If we were gonna make money, we'd be charging a lot more than $25 a day for the rent on the room. And we're hoping, for Eureka's sake, that eventually we get more people in for satellite that would come in with 1 day hearing aids. It doesn't have to be the same company that's coming in, or insurance, or whatever else that people would come in for 1 day a month or a year. We have one guy come in with a hearing aid, and that was before we had the room. He came in once a year. So
You were out at the other day.
we were out to the,
You rented that.
So your request is 90% for the land and for the office right now.
Right, is that what you're thinking?
that's what I was thinking. I mean, we wanna be fair too, to the county and to the city. Our intentions are to use that for a satellite, and hoping that after everything is remodeled and going, that we get more people in there for the community to use. I know they have the bathrooms up at the city office, and we wanna make that, bathroom accessible to anybody that comes into the community for the handicap, that they can come in and use that, so.
Can you get in that building, handicap? Okay. I always thought there was a step there, but maybe there wasn't.
On
No,
the east side.
they would
on
have
the
to
east
come in
side.
the east side,
Oh, okay.
they would have to come in the east side to do that, but
So is the old city building locked then for bathroom use and stuff?
Yes.
It is, okay. Forgot about that.
We'll have to talk about it in the future, but we've been asked during, like Schmeckfest type deals, or not Schmeckfest, like, Eureka Fest, if we could have it open then. I mean, I talked to you a little bit, my thought on that was,
So there isn't really any public place then, if somebody passing through?
there would, out at the park by the football field, but I don't think that one's open year round either. I think in the winter they close that one down, so, no.
the only problem would be like at night,
Mhm.
when they come through at night.
That's one nice thing about Leola.
Everybody uses it.
I know.
Well, I know.
Except for Saturday night when my wife said she should go and I didn't pay attention to her, so we went right. That's really nice that we'll go with that.
The new bathrooms that they put out in the ballpark
That's all.
Are very nice.
are very nice, but somebody vandalized them.
It doesn't take long.
So, but those
Okay.
would be, that would be accessible to the,
The one in Wales is more like a rescue.
we would like to leave it open, but it's not, we can't see how it would be feasible to leave it open at night.
Okay, we're at 90-90.
I guess I'd be okay with that, revisit it next year, and, things change. I appreciated if they kept us informed, if they do get a permanent type thing in there, we'd have to revisit it next year. I mean, I'm good with whatever anybody else suggests too.
But I think if the bathrooms would be open, I'd absolutely be in favor of it.
Yeah, this summer, we were hoping the bathrooms would be done by Eureka Fest, but they weren't, so this year, it'll be more accessible to the public.
So do you have it that the bathrooms can be accessible but not the offices?
Right, we have locks on the door.
Okay, so that would be a capability once they're finished.
Yeah.
All right,
Any other thoughts, Scott? I guess I'll make that motion.
okay, we have a motion by Jeff, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Neil, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. So those two line items, we got separate motions, but merry-go-round, we had changed what they had proposed. All right,
I do have a question on merry-go-round. So is that something you guys want us to revisit every year, or just say we're done hashing this out and move forward?
Probably not a bad idea. Just to have an update.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
let's at least
So
check
these
it out
two
next
just
year again.
revisit.
yeah, and just on their side, I mean, people keep on bringing stuff and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a holding pen. I know last year they had the whole parking lot. I don't know if they had a sale or just give it away, but there were hospital beds.
I think they were just giving most of that stuff away.
They inherited that. All right, tab number 3.
I got a question before we leave
Yes.
this tab.
Yep.
Who owns the Catholic Church in Watonka?
It's a lot, isn't it?
A lot.
Yeah.
Who owns it?
Probably the diocese. I would guess the Sioux Falls diocese would.
I think the deed goes back to the 1890s.
Yeah.
I just happened to catch that and like I did.
Yeah, so on this tax exempt list, so just to let you guys know, so I removed Home Park second edition. Their loan is paid off, so they do not qualify for tax exempt status in 2025. There was a name change from Prairie Wrestlers 4-H Club to the McPherson County 4-H Parent Leaders Association, so that's the building across the street. And then we did merry-go-round and ECDC. Other than that, the list is the same.
Any other questions on this page here? Now I need a motion to approve the tax exempt property list.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Sid, second. Second
Yeah.
by Neil, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, we have a motion to approve, tab number 4. Disabled veterans exemption and freeze on assessments for disabled and senior citizens. Tab number 4, to approve the veterans exemption elderly assessment freezes. Any questions on this?
Well, as long as they qualify, if there's nothing we can do about it, right? I move to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Jeff, second by Mike, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Motion to adjourn the county board. Anything else on the executive equalization? No need for executive session? Okay,
There was, missed one, it says review county owned property. It's just a list of everything. I don't know if you guys wanna go through it, or I just put that in, well, let me put that in there.
It's in tab 3 right behind the tax exempt.
I took a look at the entirety and I figured if there was anything, maybe you had any questions, you would highlight it, so.
Yeah. So just FYI, that's more, just let you know, this is all the property the county owns. Long Lake, there's those lots from that deed sale, I don't know if you wanna do anything or just let it ride out, but that's pretty
That's
much.
Jimmy Cole property, yeah.
When's that in here? Just wondering if it's any value to the county. Not, maybe we should surplus it and try to sell it.
Which one's that?
Uh,
And his actual
Yeah.
land in Long Lake?
Yeah, are those the ones that we just kept? Because there's, right,
Supposedly there was
Cleaned up the
gravel.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we sold
we
those
sold some of
We
it,
sold
but the
some.
west end, I think, was that hill,
that nobody bought.
I think Glenn kinda wanted to keep it.
Oh, okay.
Gravel in there.
Oh, and then the city didn't want us to be, that's right, okay.
We'll talk to him about it.
Yeah.
If it's no value to him, maybe we'll try to sell them, if not, we'll keep them.
All right, then I ask for a motion to adjourn the equalization county board meeting. So moved by Neil.
Second.
Second by Mike, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Service.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move into the tentative meeting agenda here for 10:30. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Not a need, motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Sid,
Second.
second by Jeff, favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Any conflict of interest?
About the only thing I had probably a dozen calls or texts or emails after the last meeting. Nothing that was trying to influence me in any way, just to put it out there that I had some calls.
I did too, I had some correspondence. All right. At this time, I would ask for any public comment, and also, once the public comment session is over with, unless the commissioners ask anybody in the public for a question, we will not have any more comments, so I just ask that you address what you want to address now, when it's your time. And after that, if we feel there's a need for something that would be helpful in our decision, we will call upon your eye as a chair, we will call upon you. So, any public comments? Yes.
My name's Bill Van Camp, I'm a lawyer from Pier, and I'm here for the data center. I was at your last meeting, I don't think it was appropriate for me at that time, really to interject myself based on the way the meeting was going. Bill Connors had hoped to have been here last week, but he had a family emergency. I know he's been here a number of times. He wasn't able to come today because of the scheduling, being so compressed. But he and I have spoken extensively about the meeting last time, and certainly he and others from that company are willing to come to Leola and have a public Q&A session. I don't know if that format would be appropriate here, or I know he's, I think, talked to the Legion about having it there the night before the zoning and planning meeting, but to attempt to answer some of the questions that came up in the last meeting from the members of your community about the proposed ordinance, and talking through it with Bill and looking at what has gone on. And I will say that I've represented Leola Data Center since last fall. There There are 2 active dockets in front of the Public Utilities Commission. I'd suggest to people if they have questions, maybe they should start looking in some of the publicly filed information that's already there. Understand that the commission in Pier has a different responsibility than this board. And a lot of the questions that I heard at the last meeting were overlays of the things that the Public Utilities Commission has to consider in analyzing the request of the data center to be served for its electrical needs by Montana Dakota Utilities. FEM, I know Scott Moore's in the room. FEM has intervened in that action, so they're a party to that docket, as is Basin Electric and East River Electric. So those matters are still pending before the commission, a lot of which will be determined by the actions of this board really as how that proceeds. But again, that commission has a statutory duty, as does this board, and so we progress in that forum as well as waiting for the outcome of this commission's action. I will say in talking to Bill that the project is comfortable. While it was not their first choice, the project would attempt to move forward with a 1 mile setback that meets with the county's other setbacks for other development as it exists right now in the county. As to some of the other things in the proposed order or the proposed ordinance that was motioned in at your first meeting and tabled at the last, I think the memo that was done by your state's attorney in coordination with one of the commissioners, I think adequately lays out what is the responsibilities of this board statutorily. You cannot create statutory rights or additional authority as a commission. You're given what you're given by the legislature, and certainly there's redress there for members of this community if they feel that the statutory standards aren't sufficient. But we look forward to participating with this board and this community and hopefully get this project developed. I understand it's new. I understand there's not another data center in this community. I'll offer that I have another client that has a nice data center outside of Oneida, and they are tickled to death to have it in Sully County. And if this project wasn't coming here, hopefully, they've already asked me to ask my other client, can you come down here? So it's not new. Data centers are not new. I know Bill knows a lot more about this than I do, but the future's gonna march forward, and these projects are gonna get developed in the state. I understand what's happened in Ellendale, and I know those folks, but certainly I wanna make Bill and his team available to this community before the zoning and planning board meeting. I think it's the 22nd, so they'd like to come up on the 21st or the 22nd. Whatever is asked of them. And I'm available for questions, but on specifics as a lawyer, sometimes I'm probably not gonna answer you. So, that's my job.
I do have one, something there you said kind of perked my interest a little bit. Said that would be willing to move forward with the 1 mile setback. Would that be through waivers or moving the project to somewhere else in McPherson County, if you can answer that?
I think both of those options are on the table.
Okay.
Are you willing to get names of the people that are involved in the Oneida project? That we could talk to them?
I could get you the chair of the commission down there.
Yeah. Well, I can find the guy.
Yeah, there was a bill Representative Moore is aware of it, although it never made it to the House. It died in the Senate by 1 vote, but there was a bill this year, the chair of the Sully County Commission came down and testified in favor of it, trying to incentivize data center production in South Dakota and development here, just because of some of the incentives that they saw in Sully County. It's nothing that made it to the House. It failed in the Senate by 1 vote.
Do they have a zoning ordinance down there?
I didn't help them in that, but it has been a project that's been there for a while, and it's been pretty well received. But before I leave, I can give you the chair of that commission, and he'd be glad to talk to any of you, I know he would.
Is that up and running?
Yeah.
Where is that located?
It's immediately due west of Oneida.
About 13 miles,
I think so.
about 13.
13 along the highway?
No, it's not gravel road, right?
It's on that Oneida cut across road.
Turn at the gas station and head west.
Yeah.
Don't get it,
Yeah.
warm water.
I was gonna say, don't go too far.
It's a couple miles.
Yeah, yeah. It's where and it's about the same size of this proposal.
Four buildings.
I'm not sure, never been on site, but it's 35 months. Jordan Lamb is the commission chair you'd be glad to talk to.
What's the first name?
Jordan Lamb.
Jordan.
Yeah, he works for the co-op in Westlake County.
Okay, any other public comment at this time?
I have a question. Does the PUC, when they look at this application, have to take into consideration the county ordinances and their needs as they have in others? Is there, does anybody know the wording on there? There was,
If you're sorry.
yeah, that's.
Yes, I mean, they're gonna take county ordinances into account. Just looking back at Summit, the first time the Summit application was denied, ultimately was denied because Summit didn't meet county ordinances, so it would be along the same lines.
So if I think I heard it right, a lot of these questions, the energy consumption, environmental study, water, a lot of this has already been done. And through the PUC, no?
No, you can look at the docket as EL 24027. EL 24-027. That is the application by Leola Data Center to be served by Montana Dakota Utility. There's a statutory framework that exists for an energy consumer of more than 2 megawatts to ask to be served by somebody that's not the incumbent carrier. This is FEM territory under existing law, and because this project was intended to be built immediately adjacent to the energy substation, Leola Data Center asked the commission to allow for us to be served. And law does exist that allows for that to happen in certain instances, and there's a statutory framework that the commission must consider. It doesn't have the list that you're talking about with your 12 considerations. It has other things to consider, such as the location, the overlay of existing infrastructure, the ability to meet the electrical needs of the community and the grid of the respective carrier. That's just off the top of my head. But there are different factors that they have to meet, and those are all statutory.
My understanding of that one is they're mainly gonna be looking at electrical use, which would be different than Summit, because that was under a different statutory framework, but here they're just looking at electrical.
Correct. The South Dakota legislature, when it set up the territorial monopolies for utility companies in South Dakota, created an exemption for large projects. Projects in the threshold right now is 2 megawatts. And in order to serve those projects, you have to comply and you have to petition the commission for authority. And that's pending, but we decided to kind of wait until we resolve our issues up here.
So, Mike, you're on the zoning, what is the agenda going to be? Are you going to, passing or suggesting that we have that, what was the thing that we had to hang up on last time? That wasn't up to date?
It's comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to figure that out first, I believe. And, I mean, that's all new to me, I don't even know.
Correct, and
If
I
that's a fair
mean,
answer.
Jeff can
But-
intervene here, but.
The comprehensive plan needs to get sorted out before we can do a lot of things, from what I can understand.
And that's why I brought it up.
And-
You know, we're talking your possible second reading or anything, well, I don't think we're.
No,
I don't think we can.
They can't.
Right now? No, we can't. do
Right,
that.
because of the questions that were,
yeah,
that we had added last time.
Right, and this wasn't, like you're saying today?
Well, that's why it was on the agenda.
Oh, no, today wasn't, today wasn't, we already had the second reading.
Correct.
So, and today wasn't published as a second reading.
Right.
If no action is taken on the second reading, it's gotta go back to at least the first reading with the commission. It can go back to the zoning board for their input as well.
And that's what our discussion is today, Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your plan, Mike, to have that comprehensive plan
Yeah.
discussed?
That and
Probably
And
extend
to
it.
learn just how does this all work as far as the new zoning book that was put together? How does that fit into all this? Does that
Well,
have anything to do with?
This ordinance would be added to that
Yeah.
after it's adopted, it
Okay.
would be part of the
And at what point are we gonna have that book done?
It's done,
It's done.
Where's that?
online.
I have it online, I need the admin manual though, that's not finished,
Okay,
so.
and you need it for what purpose?
Well,
You can do everything you need to do.
I can do everything that I need to do, but with the admin manual, it'd give me a better guide as to.
What's the admin, who finishes the admin manual?
We still gotta, there's a couple documents we
Yeah,
gotta finish
there's
after that too.
different documents. I need
We need to get that finished up.
Yeah.
And printed and so that,
So where's that at?
I have it as a Word file online right now.
Who's gotta finish it?
The admin one.
pretty close.
This is it?
Yeah, it's minus the, first pages.
Eric's.
Yeah, it's minus the cover page.
Right.
So Hunter, is that something Austin finishes or is for the Northeast Council?
Eric.
I believe Eric and you.
Both?
Yeah, cause I know he had some questions for you with
Yeah,
that.
and I haven't
so-
talked to him, I talked to him this morning about some other stuff, but not that, so.
So we need.
You're just
that
talking about the
finished
admin
before your
manual
meeting.
here now, right? Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Print it out. So that-
Well, yes, that,
What all's all?
For me, it's always better to have a hard copy, these first few pages.
So like the
It
admin
starts
manual
right
has
There you go.
the different permits in it, and then it kinda has guidelines for me to follow when I'm, giving a permit to somebody for them to fill out, so.
Yeah, it's got in there, kind of a checklist on each one, and
Yeah.
what needs to be answered, questions that need to be. Am I wrong in understanding that we believe that the comprehensive plan is still in place?
So,
But
yes,
we probably want to make sure that it gets. a date-
Revised, that the wording is
The
appropriate.
date is revised.
Yeah. and I've talked to some other state's attorneys and Eric on this more. There's no, even though it says to 2023 in there, that doesn't nullify it in 2023. Ultimately, when that was done back in 2003, because Eric was part of that back in 2003, they put that in there with the hopes that it would kind of push the county to revise it in 2023. Cause a lot of the data that's in there isn't going to be, up to date anymore, it's old data, but it is still valid. It doesn't expire, it doesn't, it's still valid.
So Mike, are you gonna suggest extending that until the ordinance is done and then work on that? That was your intention too, Jeff?
Yeah,
Extend it,
Try to get
so we're
this
valid on
ordinance.
that end?
get that extended.
Well, I need to learn how long is it gonna take to get it done right in one shot? It's gotta have a reading of,
Suppose you could have.
a one reading and like a 10-day publication or something like that
Okay,
prior to?
it depends on how we proceed here. If we decide to send it back to the zoning board to finish the revisions.
Hold on here, or what are we talking
I'm
about?
talking about the ordinance.
Okay,
If we decide to send it back to the zoning to finish the revisions on it, and then that's kind of entirely up to this group, I'm not suggesting we do that, but if we do that, they're gonna go through, take a look at suggestions from us, finish it up, then they need to have a public hearing. Okay? And the dates, you gotta have 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
So they have their public hearing, and then they send it to the county commissioners, we have first read public. And then we have a second reading, it doesn't necessarily have to be a public hearing, but, it's probably good.
So then our meeting's on the 22nd. for zoning, and is that 10 business days or consecutive calendar days?
Calendar days.
So we'd have time to get that 10-day publication and have the first reading at the commissioners meeting. Is that correct, Lynn Week?
First reading of ordinance.
Of the, yeah, comprehensive plan update. Or yeah, excuse me, comprehensive plan.
We already published the comprehensive plan.
Oh, and that's why we moved the zoning. meeting.
Right,
That's right, yeah, yeah.
Right.
We did not do anything with the ordinance, because we have not yet
That's
decided
over
if
here.
that's going to the zoning board or
I think it should go back
continuing
to
with the
zoning.
commission.
And I'm good with that, I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
So,
Actually, those are the people
You're
that
good
really
as
kind
far
of
as
decide.
timeline for the comprehensive to have that extended on the 22nd. The ordinance is something we'll decide today if we wanna send it back to the zoning board. At that point in time, it's ready to go under the admin manual, unless we want to, depending on what you wanna add of these questions.
Mhm.
Whatever you feel, or whatever the zoning board feels fit. Am I right?
Yeah, the big zoning book redo that took us like 6 years to do, that's done. I mean, that's in
Correct.
place, that's done. The admin manual doesn't change anything legally. It's just a more or less a guide for Hunter on what steps he needs to take, and then we'll have forms in there as well. Really, those forms are what we're finishing up now, which are more extensive than I think anybody really originally thought they were gonna be, just like this whole process has been. But that has no bearing on the actual zoning ordinance. And then the data center ordinance, like you guys have said, we can, if you guys wanna send that back to zoning, we certainly can. Then you gotta have a public hearing on it with zoning. Well, first, really, you'd have to have a meeting to go over any changes that you want to have made. Then publish it, then have a public hearing in zoning, publish it again, have your first reading with the commission. The commission could make changes at that time if they want, during the first hearing, then it could go on, or the first reading, then it can go on to a second reading. If there are changes made at the second reading, that process has to start over.
And that's where we're at.
And that's where we're at right now. Yep. Now, the comprehensive plan, legally speaking, that is still in place. However, I am still recommending, just because that 2023 language is in there, that we update those dates so that they are current. And then down the road, whenever it may be, there are changes that need to be made to that comprehensive plan to fall in line with our zoning ordinance. It's not anything that's like gonna, get our zoning ordinance overturned, but just to be in full compliance so the two are working simultaneously.
If you give me those recommendations, would it be able to act on those at this 22nd zoning meeting?
We could talk about them.
Recommendations to change it, you mean?
To update it.
Or just
Yeah.
Yep. Update the dates.
You give me those
Yep, but that's all, I
recommendations.
mean, I would recommend sitting down and reading through that. There's stuff that needs to be changed, but there's a lot of stuff that should be changed.
All right, get those
I mean,
recommendations to me, please.
it's significant. I would recommend reading through it and looking at everything in there, because there's a lot of data that's not a one meeting deal, I
I
can tell you
might
that.
miss something here, are we talking about two different things here? Are you talking about updating the date or updating the whole comprehensive
Well,
plan?
he is, and I'm with him, updating the whole plan.
Okay,
For this meeting though, coming up,
you're gonna.
we need to decide, are we gonna just push it through, recognize it as it is and allow it? Or are we gonna take the steps necessary to get it done?
I think we should do
my
both.
suggestion.
Okay,
My suggestion would be to update the date, maybe put another 3 years.
I don't know, can we
3
just
years or
change
5
the
years.
wording though?
What do you mean?
Well, to update the date is changing the wording of the comprehensive plan.
That's
That's a revision of it.
right, which we would, this next meeting, zoning meeting, would be our first reading of that with the zoning, and then it would have to come to the commission for, legally speaking, the commission actually only has to have one reading.
So
one
it could
hearing
be
on
done
that.
at the May meeting.
Right.
But it would be my suggestion to get the date updated, so the old one is in force.
Okay.
And then, you know, it's not gonna be one meeting to update that kind of thing.
No.
It's gonna probably be 3 or 4.
More
And more than that, because.
I bet it's gonna take a year.
You know, when we started the whole zoning book, we thought, oh, we'll have this done in a year. Well, it was 6 years. So give yourself some time, go over it, you know, and make changes. The zoning board is, it's a good board. There's different people on there that have different views. It works pretty good together. So that would be my suggestion.
As far as these questions here, I'd like to give Mike some direction here as far as your comments. You know, what needs to be included, what can be included? Do any of them need to be included? Are all these questions gonna be answered at this meeting that we're proposing? You know, right, Mike, I wanna give you some.
I have to add a little bit, so I'll take it for what it's worth. I had the same kind of thoughts as, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry.
Bill, right?
Yeah. My thoughts were that the zoning board should take a look at these 12 things, okay?
Is it 11 or 12? Everybody says.
Where is my card? Oh, it's in the book there.
Yeah, it's in the back.
Take a look at it. If there are some that you can absolutely put in the zoning regs as a yes or no answer that somebody else doesn't have oversight on, I would put it in if you want. If it's something like the PUC control or Game Fish and Parks has control or whatever, my suggestion would be that we actually put in the zoning ordinance to have a public informational meeting as part of the zoning ordinance, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever date, ahead of the actual conditional use permit hearing, have a public information meeting. Everybody kind of wants information.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand that because it's a new thing. And then some of these things can be answered by the company. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to what the PUC does.
Right,
So,
and it's-
so our
it's-
hang up, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just, that's really, when you look at the pipeline ordinance that's in there right now, that's exactly what we have.
So,
I think there's an I mean, we have several hearings laid out in there, so yeah, we can have a required public hearing.
okay.
No decisions could be
That's a
made.
suggestion. Now, here's something else. There was quite a bit of feedback last week at the meeting about, you know, not wanting these things to get out of hand and not end up with something that's like going on in Ellenville. And I've been by there and I'm not really sure that we're ready for something like that. Is it possible that we can put a limit to the megawatt capacity? Now, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to think long and hard about it, because we could put an ordinance in place because of the health, safety, and welfare of our county. So if you're gonna put something like that in there, I believe you're gonna have to come up with a reason why. You know, so I just picked 50 megawatts because that's the size of this one that's coming here.
But doesn't that wording there go against what was actually said against these reviews? All I wanted by making the motion a month and a half ago to put these questions is to get information. I'm not trying to restrict anybody, I'm trying to educate myself.
So there,
Well, that's
can I,
what the public input
can I interject there? And I mean, and words mean things, but to me, the required studies, and I said at the last meeting, can we request them? they wouldn't necessarily have to answer them then, I know,
So here,
Then that would be the
but.
here's what I'll tell you on that. So like I said last time, if we have it, I can't remember the statute off the top of my head, I've got it in here, but if there's something that's in the ordinance, you guys are required to take that into account when making a decision. Now, what I would I'm gonna say, I wouldn't recommend putting a request in the ordinance, but with the public hearing, what you could do at that public hearing is ask for that kind of information to be presented. It's not part of the ordinance then. You don't have to take that into account, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm saying you could work around that a little bit.
And so then you'd add the details to that public question and answer to the ordinance as a guideline to follow the ordinance? Or am I going off
That could,
track?
I wouldn't put that in the ordinance at all.
Okay,
It's just, if you guys want that information, ask for it at the public hearing. You can ask,
Make sure
you can ask for, right, just have your own list,
just make sure to
you
have.
know? It just, if it's in the ordinance, it has to be taken into account, and there's gotta be details on how it's taken into account under whatever that statute is. But if it's not in the ordinance, you can still, I mean, anybody that comes up here, you can ask them for anything, it doesn't, you know, that doesn't mean you have to take it into account when you're making your decision, it's just information.
I guess what I'm trying to avoid is the zoning board turns into the board of adjustment, okay? And that's the board which you're gonna be on, and the other 4 members of the zoning board are gonna be on. When a conditional use permit comes before you, what you need to have is a list of all the stuff in our zoning book, in the ordinance, that are yes and no answers, okay? If they do this, if they comply by the setbacks, that's a yes. If they don't, then it's a no, well, that kind of disqualifies. It shouldn't be,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna not get the information, but if it's stuff that is not a yes or no answer, you're kind of putting the zoning board on the spot to judge this company.
We're spending a lot of time haggling over this ordinance, when really all we gotta do is say, well, I don't like this data center, no to the CUP. Wrong? Deny the permit. If we don't want a data center, just deny the permit.
You still have to, there still has to be, justifiable reasons for it, but yes.
And that's an option for us. I don't think that's the best option. And my main concern there is we're infringing on some property rights. Because obviously, where this place is going, whoever has the land, they also have property rights. And even on a board like this, you have to kind of stay neutral in that respect. Because if you do that, you're taking away that guy's property.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not saying I'm for or against this project, you just gotta kind of ride the fence on that stuff.
Mike, you're more familiar with, you studied this more than probably anybody else, but are there things that you feel can be in there, or just basically put in there that no matter what we have, any situation that comes up, we're gonna have an informational meeting, which I think we all agree on, where all those questions could be answered, those 12 questions that were presented to us.
Right. Well, the big question is, can these be included? No, is the forward answer. They shouldn't be, but they need to be answered. And so we need to figure out how to make any business coming in here justifiable to this.
Yep.
So if you'd entertain getting the wording of this ordinance right, whether it's taking out those altogether, we just need to be vigilant that these these questions are answered and not forgotten about, and that some business doesn't come in here without the appropriate
So,
checks and balance.
you know, just for
And
instance,
that's what the conditional use permit, they apply for that so that we take them into consideration. So,
just for instance, like number 6, noise impact study. We have that in the ordinance already, so that's one that will have a yes or no answer. You have so many decibels, it's so far away.
Yep.
That is one that the board can, well, is it gonna meet our regs on decibels?
Yep.
Yes, well, that's a check mark, then move on, no, well, then. Some of these other ones, study on the tax revenue. Yeah, I wanna know how much tax revenue there is, but where do you draw the line? If it's $100, do you have a set number? If you don't have a set number of what tax revenue needs to be, you can't say yes or no. That's something in the public, information meeting, you know, that's a good question to ask. And really, all of them are good questions to ask in a public meeting. But if you cannot have a yes or no answer, that they either did it or they didn't do it, I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance itself, which would be covered under the public information meeting.
Okay, so this, Scott, can I ask you a question? Has there been some type of energy consumption study?
For this one,
Yeah.
I'm guessing MDU has one, we don't, we've never approached, and the 2 megawatt law's been in place for years, so that's, just so the commission knows, MDU ain't doing anything FEM won't do to them. That's just the way the power company, that's how you get outside the boundaries. We've been dealing with a lot of data centers, and the way we do it is we're a 3-tier system, so I put a request into East River, and then they talk to Basin, and within that study, we've determined if there's enough power and the cost to upgrade our system to get them that power. So like, when I say the studies are done in-house. I'm guessing that, we gotta get, when we sign an agreement, we're gonna give you 100 megawatts of power, for whatever, so. The studies are done with electric companies, now if the, server farms have them studies, I'm guessing they could request them, but they're not doing their own studies, I'm pretty sure.
Is that something that MDU would let the public see?
You'd have to ask MDU that,
Right.
actually.
Okay.
But, yeah, I can tell you what we would.
You would.
Oh, I think that's the big question you're gonna see coming forward is, that's a big question on power, and, that's, so, the studies are there, and if that's what it'd take to get the, reassurance to the citizens of the county, or the ordinance, or whoever, I think it'd be well worth everybody's time, but I can't say everyone's gonna do that.
And that's also a question you're gonna ask them. Have you complied with all other, authority, PUC, state, any other entity that they have?
and then asking if they've done these studies for anybody else, and they're gonna say yes or no. And then I'm gonna say, can I see that information?
But in a public.
If it applies to this, yes. But, just have a study for something else that doesn't apply to this one, I don't know if that's in our right to do that. I'm just.
You came in afterwards, but I'll let you, do you have anything beneficial?
Yes.
I'd say we're gonna have public comment unless.
I was here, but you didn't really close the public comment.
That's fine. Go ahead,
Okay.
if you feel it's beneficial, make it.
Okay, want you guys, and hopefully the zoning board, to look at this a little bit different. This morning, I had a very in-depth conversation with a friend of mine, Scott Moore knows him, his name is Todd McMichael, and he sells transformers to to FEM, MDU, things like that. He's worked in this world for a long time. And his biggest problem with, he sees in this, is not so much the decibel level, is the frequency, the low level frequencies that you feel that we don't understand. You can hold up a decibel meter and it can be quite low, but a lot of frequencies. What he suggested to me, and he said he's worked with several of these, is we take this to South Dakota State Engineering, South Dakota State University engineering class. Ask for one of their students to do an overview of this and let them help guide building a zoning ordinance. So if your frequency level is at this, they understand what that is. You're trying to zone stuff and don't have the technical knowledge. Take this to someone that does, a mutual third party. We're asking for these 11 or 12 different studies. You get all these studies back, that's just information, more information to write about that none of us may, some of it we might understand, some of it we might not understand in this study coming back. Let SDSU, if they'll take it, or an engineering firm, help write an ordinance. Your decibel level at this many feet back, your frequency level at this many feet back. Things like that, stuff that we don't understand. We understand farming, we understand hog barns, we understand poultry, dairy, we understand fencing, roads, things that, all deal with our zoning. This is stuff that's out of our expertise. Bringing in a third mutual party to help educate the boards, to make it fair to the data center, to make it fair to the people that live in the community, and to hopefully put out some of these future fights. Because once this information is there, then we start all over. Well, we need to rezone because they said this. We need to add that because they said that. Person, engineering firm or university, school of mines possibly might take it too. Help guide with technical knowledge and hopefully at a zero cost or a minor donation. Educate ourselves.
There's a lot of food out here.
Got a big appetite.
Okay, so any other questions, Mike? Any questions from the,
I
so,
think let's move on. Let's
Motion
kick
to
it.
put it back to the zoning board, I think.
correct.
Second.
We have a motion by Sid, second.
Yep, second.
Second by Mike. Any other discussion? Anything else?
I think that's probably the right course to do there. Pretty good discussion group there, so.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, now I need a motion to go into the drainage board.
So moved.
So moved by Mike.
Second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Sid.
Yep, gotcha. So Scott, you're up, this is the.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Scott, thanks for coming. So, Scott, is that? You have, okay, you have all that. He's on this all the time.
Yes, they have.
Everything around is fine.
Is it going to the same place as all the other stuff?
I got the iPad.
He's adding it to it.
Yeah, he's just adding it. So you'd have another door in the road. I know you don't like that. Yep, that's all tiled in. Down somewhere. It goes across the road right here. And then it's in the same drainage.
But this one can't be done.
Yeah, I don't know, is there a lift in there? Scott, that you can't go north with this water, you can't go this way?
No, so
You need to go deeper with this.
the other field right here was tiled, in 2014, and then this headland is pretty much flat. And then there's no drop, so if you go all the way from this corner, there gets to be a drop going to the south, so. And that's why the 40 loan's done in conjunction
Oh,
with the.
so you're gonna have to bore through then?
Well, I was hoping not, but you're telling me I am, so.
We're back to that.
I don't,
But, yeah, let's see.
okay, you're familiar with this, Len?
I did look at that.
Main thing is boring through the road if that. And no matter how we look at it, adding water going down.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be slow water, but it's, you know.
So we're gonna for sure get that Bill Lockie section line, right east of Bill Lockie's trees.
Oh, yeah, I already took
Where's
Josh
that?
out there and looked at it when, pardon me?
Where's that at?
That's, it's way.
Yeah, that's-
Way up here.
Yeah.
That's on the other
Or no,
corner.
southeast.
I can show you,
Yeah.
I would like to know.
Yeah, we went out and looked at it, I took Josh out there, we get to a point here where we're working on that too, so.
See, it's,
Sure.
Bill Lockheed, right here, these trees, I think that's, they called that the old Bill Lockheed place back in the day.
Okay.
And then Kenny wanted this rock
Right,
crossing
right,
fixed.
Just wanna make sure it gets done.
Well, I wanna make sure too that the locations are exactly.
Although
where
the
they
argument
when we
would be
start on it, so.
sending essentially
I'll
the
be
same
letting them
amount of
know when
water
we're doing it.
slower, so it
Right.
should help the rock crossing even the existing the way it is, so I don't know.
You're okay with it then? As long as the road gets not cut, the
Yeah,
road can't be cut. Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to approve this.
Second, if it's not, if boring's not part of the application and you want it bored, you should probably make that part of that motion.
Is it part of that?
Does not.
Sid, when you're done, you have it.
Okay, is this another, is this a different one? Last time it was rejected because he didn't have pipe sizes?
Yeah, that one we approved, what?
Yeah.
He came back with the sizes.
Yeah, he's got the sizes.
Someplace, I don't know if I lost it or what, I didn't get a map with this on.
Yeah, this one is the 40 right to the southwest of
There you go.
Sam's
You wanna
yard.
see it, Kenny?
Yeah, there you go,
He's got it.
there you go.
So that water's gonna end up coming down that same ditch?
Absolutely, that's why I asked if it's for sure gonna get, that spot over there in the section line, for sure gonna get done.
Yeah. Well then, as far as this, I don't have any objection, just that before the water starts flowing, I need that corrected over there in that section line.
Get it done, yeah.
we will be working on it.
Okay.
Okay.
I
And
do
you're
want-
good with it other than that, you know, make sure that gets done?
Yeah, because if they keep it in the channel, I don't have
Okay.
a question, but it's
So-
been neglected.
It's not gonna be perforated, I would assume you'd have to have it,
That in that field, I think it will,
cause you're gonna be crossing tile there,
yeah, that would be in the tile field, so I think that would be
perforated also.
in the field.
Yeah.
Now, that one other project, it was going
Along
down,
the road
just
to
to
the
take
south.
it down their ways, and then they said, no, don't perforate that.
So
On
basically,
account of the grass and so forth.
in the motion, we probably need to add that the road not be cut and bored only.
Rescind that, if you wanna do that, rescind the earlier motion.
Yeah.
I'll rescind the motion.
Okay, there wasn't a second one.
So now the motion needs to read that.
The road gets bored and
that
not
the road
cut.
gets bored, or-
Make a motion to approve the application with the stipulation that the road is bored, not cut.
Okay, we have a motion,
I'll second.
second. Any other discussion at all? Okay,
I bored road guys wouldn't accept it until I cased it, and then put the wet pipe inside the casing.
Yeah, so
It's in the ordinance.
yeah, that's in the ordinance for
So, just so Scott knows,
Yeah.
he can't just bore and
double,
stick a
double
water
case.
line through.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And I think that's all we had, right? Hunter, that's all in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then we can adjourn.
You want a motion to come on?
Yeah.
Come out of drainage.
Also move.
Motion is second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're out.
Okay, we kind of briefly talked about this, snow has melted. Weather report for 2 weeks is, no moisture and
Dry
warmer.
and windy.
Yeah, it's surprising, you know, I drove around yesterday, that it's still, I mean, the
It's
fire
still-
danger is still there.
It's
On
still,
top,
yeah,
Now it greens up,
beautiful
it gets
moisture.
more moisture.
even from our place to Eureka, we got significantly more snow.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big difference.
I figured we had an inch and a quarter moisture.
Yesterday, I went to light my pit on fire, and I went to grass around it, it just burned like crazy, I had a tough time stomping out with my foot yesterday.
Yeah,
So-
there was a fire Saturday, and I think it was in Brown County over here, and I'm kinda like, whoa, there was quite a bit of wind. So,
So is it suggested that we put a full burn
we just had it on, we had it on the agenda for, we wanna do it until the next meeting, or you wanna tell that, tell,
Till late, May meeting.
I think it's probably better to do it now for them to do it.
oh, no, but I meant tell the,
Oh,
and
tell-
it's- yeah,
and
and then
revisit it
if
after next meeting.
greens up after, I don't know.
Should.
We got a couple warm days, and then it's gonna be in the 50s again, and last night it was cold, so. I would suggest we do, I mean, I know everybody's gonna use common sense, but
Not everybody.
I know that.
I'm fine with doing it.
I'm good.
So,
What do you
yes,
think?
and revisit
I'll
it
move
at
to-
the May meeting.
Yeah,
Put a burn ban in effect until the next commissioners meeting on
Revisit it then.
May 6th.
okay, you have to decide open fires, burn barrels, campground, or all. It's a ban for all open fires, burn barrels, campgrounds, those 3 categories.
I'll add all fires to my motion.
And then does this get put in the paper?
Yeah.
And also on Facebook?
Yes.
Yes, and
Does that include the incinerators?
If it's a closed system, it would not.
Well, let's smoke, that's it,
Yeah, that'd be fine.
like these
Those-
units.
That would just be like a fireplace in somebody's house, more or less. is
More or
kind of-
less.
Yeah, that would be fine. Yep, that's not gonna be part of that.
And I know the city of Eureka has, even any time of the year, you can't have a fire pit without a cover on it.
Right.
That even scares the crap out of me, to have a cover on it, but this would be for anything, so. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Neil, any other discussion? This is for all fires, a motion for burn ban until our next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
I mean, that's one of the last fires we had with the Eureka Fire Department. It was a burn pit that somebody burned 2 weeks before that and buried it. I mean, there was a foot of dirt on top of it. And that wind brought that one little ember's all you need and brought it up and,
And then you had another one where the trees were burned 2 months up at Greenwood.
yes,
2 months.
Smolder.
yep.
Our family's got a story. 1909.
Okay, discussion on procedure to schedule a commission meeting. Okay, all right.
I'm blank. What did I say?
I think
Procedure
you wanted
to reschedule.
discussion on the way that the last meeting was rescheduled. wanted more of a procedure.
Oh, I guess, so I asked Lindley at what point was the meeting officially rescheduled? Because we had discussed around noon on Monday, and, it wasn't until like 4:30 at night that I heard from somebody who heard from somebody that it was official. I was just curious at
That
what,
was prior to me telling you, I waited until 4 o'clock to see
yeah, and so I was.
whether it was gonna change or not.
And she
it
had,
just didn't
Lindley
change.
had called me on Friday about another matter, and I brought it up to her, and.
So she didn't get the notice out until I gave her the approval.
Right.
So I thought, well, if they go from 70 to 30, and the way it turned out, it was worse over here than over there, but.
Here's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
I would say that it probably should be the chairman's call.
Yeah, and he was,
With the auditor, working with the auditor on that type of deal.
got it.
So should I send out more notice than just the email, or was that good?
No, you're good, I just was,
I'm okay with what you're
As
doing.
long as you,
You wanna
the
throw
main
a
thing
text
is to
in
get
there,
it
that's
public,
fine.
that we have, 24-hour notice.
yeah, and like Lindley and I talked that as soon as, she sends out her stuff, I for one am gonna make sure that I open up the tabs and figure out if everything's working. And let her know as soon as I can.
That you received it.
Yeah.
For the Google Drive stuff, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with that for a little bit.
Well,
Because there's been times when I open my phone to do it cause that's usually my first source of information. And then I get to the home computer to actually dive into it. But then there's time when service doesn't, or maybe I'm just not hitting the right button. Because that document, app, the way she sends it is new to me. What's it called again, Lindley? Drop, thanks. So that, I'm still trying to,
I think if you don't have a Dropbox, if you don't have
Just
that on your phone, you're not gonna get it.
right, you gotta download the app, and so like I said, I'm still, I think I've got it sorted out now, but.
If it makes you feel better, I gotta ask my kids how to do little shit.
Whoa.
I don't even
I
try
miss
to
my
learn.
kids.
But,
And the other thing
Wait
is,
till
with
my wife gets
Dropbox,
home.
I have to have permission to even print that from Dropbox.
Sometimes I have to go there.
It works for me, but I can see where it can be, but just,
Maybe, you know, in a case of changing meeting dates, throw a text out, group text out.
don't respond.
Yeah, if Lindley
She's good.
sends it, that's fine, just don't respond to it. Yeah.
Okay, Hunter has something he just wants to bring up about the
I
next.
just
one.
wanted to there was a lot with the zoning ordinance, so on the 22nd, we can have a public meeting for the comprehensive plan, but not for the data center ordinance.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make everybody aware of that we were all on the same page.
We can still have the data center ordinance on the agenda and
Absolutely,
talk about it, make
yes,
changes if we
yes,
want, or
yes,
whatever it may
yes.
be. That's just not,
Right,
the
I don't have enough time
hearing,
to advertise in the paper.
right, at that point though, we could come up with a plan
Yes,
to present as a first reading to the commission for the May 6th meeting, is that correct or not?
we'll have to
Still
have,
not enough.
we'll have to have a hearing with the zoning board
Okay.
first.
Public hearing.
Got it,
Yeah,
got it.
And whether you do that at your next scheduled meeting, which will be 3 months down the road.
I'd say we have
Or
one.
there's a special meeting in between there, that's up to you guys to
Mhm.
decide how to do that.
Right,
And you'll know if you're ready to do that, it's probably something you wanna do, you have to advertise it, what, 10 days, so, you know, if you got it ready to go,
Mhm.
you'll probably schedule a,
Okay.
special.
well, I've made contact with Dan and Richard, but Logan, I left a voicemail, and George, I left a message with his wife. I haven't-
and I've made contact with all of them that
Okay.
day, so they're aware of
Yeah.
everything, so.
What happens if we all are all there?
We can be there in the crowd.
Yeah, we should probably file or publish a,
The 3 or more?
yeah.
And I've been starting to do that on the bottom of my agendas, put that is it a state law notice type?
Yeah,
Thing.
Yeah, I think that's gotta be published. Well, I guess if it's on the agenda, that is published then, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I just, it's pretty.
probably won't be there, you guys are gonna talk way too much. Just let you guys figure it out.
We'll call you. You'll be on the speed dial. Okay, anything else before we leave today about what we talked about the plan, the ordinance? If not,
Pretty good.
I just wanna get a hold of that Lamb
we will,
and Sully,
Neil and I may contact him today on our way to Pier.
okay, if you want to, yeah.
I don't know, I got a team's meeting at 2:00 at home, but.
Okay.
Swing by.
We probably will.
Be interested to see how big that.
I've driven past it, I didn't even know what it was.
So,
Yeah.
I guess the guy wasn't here anymore, but I was just.
Yeah, it's on
curious.
1804.
I was
I looked it up.
curious whether they have the same type of cooling system, you know, so you kinda get an idea how, what it sounds like, you know.
At this point, whatever day this imagery is, that's the worst site in progress.
Oh, there's,
It's hard to,
they were still building.
so
that.
this is,
When that map was, when the satellite took the pictures,
It's a very good suggestion too here by, some of these schools, if that's something they wanna do and do it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
More information to get.
Well, I mean, that's
so that's kinda where it lays in the world.
pretty much what I said in
Okay.
the EMS.
I guess it's more than 2 miles,
Yeah.
whatever. But,
Only if it's beneficial to you can, if it's just short, brief.
Well, I just mentioned about how much noise there is at the data center, and I've been told that they're a lot noisier when it's hot out, because the cooling system is working a lot harder, more fans running down. Just to mention that.
the wind towers up north, I think I've said it before, but it's really strange because we can hear the closest we are, probably 2 miles away from the closest one, but if it is really warm and really humid in the summertime, we get the sound from a south wind. There to the north, we'll get the rumble.
Really?
It sounds like scrapers, heavy equipment.
Oh, really?
First few times I heard it, it didn't make any sense at all to me, but absolutely the wind towers. And it was completely backwards from what you'd think it would be, and it's consistent.
You get the whoosh sit, or you get the
Just,
low hum?
just the hum.
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking, why I said what I said. That's
Yeah.
what needs to be studied here, is that low frequency hum.
But what I don't understand is why is it, humidity I understand, because it probably carries it,
That's what I, yep.
but, literally, we get the most sound from it with the south wind.
Because it's not a sound, it's a frequency, and it's traveling in the humidity, and the air is different, it's carrying it. But that's what the guy I talked to that was so adamant, he said, dBs are nothing. He said, it's that that's gonna get you. You know, you get around certain sounds that makes your stomach upset. He said, you might not even hear it, and your stomach is starting to rumble. He said, it's a frequency, that's what he feels professionally needs to be studied. And that's what he has to abide by with his transformers in cities and towns. He sells in like 9 states. I say Scott buys from him.
So we ready to adjourn?
Yes, we are.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, this adjourned by Sid, second.
second.
Second by Mike, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody, very good meeting.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility about it. It's not the sound.
Well, you can get online.
Is there such a thing?